Hi, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Ben.
And together we are 15 Degrees North.
Today we're going to show you the sights and sounds of Bucharest.
Bucharest is the capital of Romania and the EU's most easterly capital on mainland Europe.
At one stage, firmly behind the Iron Curtain, Bucharest has now opened its doors to the rest of the world to show off its unusual mixture of 19th century ornate architecture and 20th century Sovietic city planning.
Bucharest is known as the Paris of the East because many of its neoclassical and Art Nouveau buildings could easily be found on streets on the opposite side of Europe.
Question 1. Romania became an independent country in 1877 when Moldavia and Wallachia merged and broke away from which empire?
The Ottoman Empire.
Correct, well done.
Bucharest became the capital of Romania when the country first gained its independence.
Its first king, Carol I, invested heavily in the city's infrastructure, building grand civic buildings and palaces across the city.
Much of this survives today, but many of the more historic buildings unfortunately don't, due to some fairly ruthless building clearage under communist rule.
Following World War II, the city was occupied by Soviet troops who established a socialist republic that would remain in place until 1989.
During the 1980s, 6 square kilometres of the city's historic centre were demolished as part of the city's systemisation, a process used across Romania to erase the old order and replace it with the new.
In this case, this meant knocking down 3 monasteries, 20 churches, 3 synagogues, hospitals, theatres, an Art Deco sports stadium, and thousands upon thousands of homes whose residents only given a single day's notice to relocate elsewhere.
Question 2. What was the name of the communist dictator who ruled over Romania and became known as the most awful of all the totalitarian leaders in the Eastern Bloc?
I don't remember his first name, but I know it's Ceausescu.
Is correct, but I'm only going to give you a half point because his first name is Nikolai.
Ceausescu unleashed his systemisation on Bucharest following a trip to North Korea.
He was wooed by the people's absolute adulation for their leader and subsequently tried to replicate the same in Romania.
So he built this big monolith, the Palace of the Parliament, on the land he just bulldozed, and his aspirations were big.
It took 13 years to build, starting in 1984 and ending in 1997.
It is the second largest administrative building in the entire world, second only to the Pentagon, and the largest by volume. And it also holds the title of the heaviest building in the world.
So, well, how exactly did they work that one out?
Not a clue, but it just goes to illustrate how goddamn massive this building actually is.
Ceausescu wanted to house the entire government in one place, with enough space for all the ministries and departments that made his country tick.
And if there's one thing that we know about communism, it's that they loved a good ministry.
Ceausescu oversaw the project directly, but unfortunately for him, the revolution in 1989 meant that he would never see his mega project completed, as he was publicly executed for his tyrannical leadership of the country.
And so came the question, what should the newly democratic Romania do with this incredibly expensive half-finished building?
Well, they decided to finish it, but not to the same scale and grandeur as Ceausescu had envisaged.
In fact, 70% of the building remains empty to this day.
And on our tour, we spent over an hour looking around and covered only 6% of the building.
It really is that big.
Question 3. To the nearest 100,000, how many people live in Bucharest?
I
did tell you this yesterday.
You did, yeah. 2 million.
2.3 million.
Ceausescu was in power from 1968.
Initially popular because he temporarily eased press censorship, which had been incredibly strict under his predecessor, this popularity didn't last long.
He formed a totalitarian government that was considered the most repressive in the entirety of the Eastern Bloc, employing his secret police to survey citizens and terrorize them into submission.
He made bad investments too, causing the country's debts to skyrocket and creating vast poverty all over Romania. There were food shortages, electricity rationing, even water and medicine were in incredibly short supply.
But all the while, his cult of personality grew and grew, in which he cast himself in the role of the nation's father and saviour.
He also tried to ignore and remove the Romani people from his country, leading to accusations of genocide and extreme neglect.
When the fall of the Berlin Wall started, the domino effect that led to the fall of communism in Europe, the revolution in December 1989 saw Ceausescu try to flee Bucharest with his wife, but they were captured by the army, put on a trial and executed by firing squad on Christmas Day.
Question 4. Probably the most famous resident ever to live in Bucharest was Vlad the Impaler. What was the name of Vlad the Impaler's father?
Father. Vlad the First.
Well, actually Vlad II, but actually Vlad Dracula was his name.
Oh, right, okay.
Pre-communism, Romania was a country that was pulled back and forth between empires.
Its time in the Ottoman Empire left marks all over the city, but Romania was also in the Roman Empire, the Byzantine, the Mongols, and then splintered into the independent states of Moldavia, Wallachia, and Transylvania.
The latter has become most famously related to the Count Dracula, who was supposedly based on Vlad the Impaler, the king of Wallachia in the 15th century.
You can learn all about this by heading to the Transylvanian castles, which we will do in a future video, but the mythology surrounding vampirism does indeed come from this region, even if it was a Brit who brought it to the rest of the world's consciousness.
I stopped taking credit for something that does not belong to you.
Vlad the Impaler may well have been Romanian, but Count Dracula was distinctly a British creation, alright?
And if you want to see other things that are distinctly Romanian, you should head to the National Museum of Art, which is housed in the Royal Palace.
After the communist state was established in 1947, the then king, Michel I, was forced to abdicate and move out, leaving this vast palace empty.
However, it was not left empty for long, with the art gallery opening there in 1950, which continues to this day, several regime changes later.
Inside, you can find exhibitions of fine art from across the world, the preserved staterooms of the palace, and art collected from across Romania.
Question 5. In what year did Romania join the European Union?
2007.
Correct! Well done! I really like this park, which is like a place to memorialise the European Union. But all these faces around the edge, I don't know any of them. Do you know any of them?
I know a couple actually, yes I do.
Who do you know?
I know that one right over there, Robert Schuman, a Frenchman.
What did he do?
Well, the Declaration Schuman that's launched the CEE, the European Community.
Aha.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Adenauer, the one right behind me.
And what did he do?
It was German. I don't know what he did.
He was a German.
Was
okay,
a
well,
German.
in that case, that guy Spinelli over there, he was Italian. I know him.
Our final stop in Bucharest is one that we would highly recommend.
The Dimitrie Gusti National Village Museum is a remarkable open-air ethnographic exhibition that showcases traditional village life from across Romania.
Traditional houses, farms and churches have been moved to its location in King Michel I's Park and was opened in 1936.
If there was a way that I could live in the Romanian countryside in the 19th century, I would absolutely take it. Their lives looked so simple but so pretty and wholesome and lovely.
Featuring 272 buildings dating from the 18th and 19th century, these remarkable structures would once have been commonplace, but have now been mostly lost.
While these buildings haven't been fully eradicated from the country, the aforementioned nationwide systemization demolished vast portions of them from the countryside, meaning that this museum has become all the more precious.
Bucharest is a vast and sprawling metropolis, and there is subsequently a lot to see and do here.
It's not a polished or even beautiful city, but its history and fascinating attractions will make it one of the most intriguing European cities you'll ever visit.
Thanks for watching.
Be sure to like, share and subscribe.
And follow us on Instagram at 15 Degrees North.
Make sure to tune in to our next video to see where in the world we end up next.
See ya.
Bye!